speak of loneliness as if it's a punishment, a cold room, a silent phone, an empty chair. But what if loneliness is not something forced on us, but something we unconsciously create? Carl Jung believed that loneliness doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being unable to speak your truth to others, from living in a crowd that can't see who you really are. Loneliness, then, is not always exile. Sometimes it's a rebellion, a retreat from noise, a search for the real self in the absence of the false. But here's the paradox. The deeper you move into your solitude, the louder something else becomes. It's not the echo of your own voice. It's something beneath that, a whisper you've long ignored. And in this whisper lies the beginning of a journey, not away from others, but toward the most hidden parts of yourself. So ask yourself, are you really alone? Or are you finally with the only person who's always been there? Because when the world grows quiet, the unconscious begins to speak. When silence stretches long enough, it doesn't stay empty. It begins to echo, not with noise, but with knowing. Carl Jung taught that in true solitude, the unconscious stirs. The parts of you you've hidden, silenced, or forgotten. They don't vanish. They wait. Wait for the moment when the distractions end and your inner world finally has space to surface. You begin to hear thoughts that don't sound like your usual voice. Images appear, feelings emerge, not from logic, but from the deep, strange ocean inside you. This is the shadow whispering, the unlived life surfacing, the truth that society never taught you to name. And most people panic here. They turn the music back on, scroll endlessly, text someone, anyone, just to avoid it. But if you can sit with it, if you can listen, you'll find that this voice isn't here to destroy you. It's here to wake you up. Because the unconscious doesn't want control. It wants balance. It wants you to stop running. And when you stop running, a different kind of journey begins. Not all who isolate are lost. Some are simply transitioning. Carl Jung believed that real transformation requires separation, not from people, but from distraction, expectation, and the false self. This is solitude, not as loneliness, but as initiation. In myth, the hero always leaves the village, not because he hates it, but because he needs to become someone else. Solitude, in Jungian thought, is the dark forest between who you are and who you're meant to be. In this forest, no one is guiding you. There are no signs, only silence. And in that silence, you're forced to meet yourself. Not the version others want, but the raw, unpolished self beneath the roles. Most people turn back at this point. They confuse discomfort with danger. But those who stay, those who endure the quiet long enough, emerge with something rare: clarity. They don't become someone new. They remember who they've always been. But remembering comes with a price. Because when you find yourself, you also find everything you've buried to survive. Everything you've buried to survive, the pain, the guilt, the unspoken rage, doesn't disappear. It waits. And in solitude, it senses your silence as an invitation. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of you you rejected, ignored, or feared, not because they were evil, but because they didn't fit the image you were told to become. In solitude, the shadow rises, not to punish you, but to be seen. And this is where most people run. They confuse the unfamiliar with the dangerous. They mistake depth for darkness. But if you stay, if you face the shadow without judgment, you'll discover something most people never realize. Your shadow holds your power, your creativity, your passion, your intuition. These aren't found in the polished image you show the world. They live in the wild, unfiltered parts of you you've locked away. And the truth is, no one becomes whole by chasing light. You become whole by integrating your darkness. Because once you make peace with your shadow, you begin to rebuild your strength from the inside out. When you stop running from your shadow, something strange happens. You begin to feel stronger, not louder, not bolder, but rooted. Carl Jung said that true strength is quiet. It doesn't come from dominance. It comes from integration, from no longer needing to prove yourself, because you've already met all of you and made peace. In solitude, clarity grows. The noise dies down, and what remains is not weakness, it's direction. You start to choose from center, not from fear. Your boundaries get firmer, your intuition sharper, and slowly you stop seeking approval from people who never understood your silence. You don't become untouchable, you become self-sourced. This is the paradox of solitude. It looks like emptiness from the outside, but inside, it's where identity solidifies. Because once you've learned to sit with yourself, you're no longer afraid of being left alone. You've already met the one person who can never abandon you. But solitude isn't always strength. Sometimes it turns inward and festers. How do you tell the difference? Solitude can shape you, or it can shatter you. It all depends on how you hold it. Carl Jung warned that isolation, when rooted in fear or resentment, doesn't lead to growth. It leads to disconnection. Healthy solitude is chosen. It's an act of courage. You enter it not to escape others, but to encounter yourself. But unhealthy solitude, it creeps in quietly. It feeds on self-doubt. It replaces reflection with rumination, peace with numbness. So how do you know where you are? Ask yourself, does your solitude make you feel more whole or more hollow? Are you coming home to yourself or hiding from the world? Jung believed that true selfhood is forged in the tension between belonging and being alone. We must learn to be alone without being lonely, and to return to others without losing ourselves. Solitude is not the end of the path. It's the forge. You enter fragile, you emerge clear. So maybe the real question isn't, are you alone? But, who are you becoming while no one is watching?